And guys, welcome back to the Now. I'm doing awesome. Caleb, how you been doing?
Doing great. I'm
Man.
doing absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
I'm doing good too, guys.
Summer
Yeah.
is
good.
starting in.
Summer's here. Hayes, what does a summer kid do in the summertime?
Oh my gosh, a summer kid doing the summertime. What a tongue
I know
twister.
it sounds weird, but what does a summer kid do in
Oh,
the
man.
summertime?
I mean, personally for me, I got a lot of basketball, soccer, the Now podcast. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You get sunburnt yet?
Dude, if I were to show you my back, you guys would be throwing up. It's peeling all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, look like
The
a
whole
lizard.
place. But hey, we're here with
Disgusting.
Josh. Enough about us. We're here with Josh Probst,
The man, the myth.
the man, the myth, the legend. Introduce yourself a little bit.
Okay, so I go to Columbia High School, as a lot of people in our youth do. But I am 16 and I work at Dairy Queen. I go to Life Community Church.
Yeah.
And, this church alone has made just such a big impact on my life. And I think going to Columbia High School, I could use that as like a mission field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Definitely.
huge, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said Dairy Queen. If I go to Dairy Queen, where would I find you at Dairy Queen? In the
Man,
back? Are you
I'm in the back.
wiping
I'm
Eating
gonna
the
be
blizzard.
up front.
In the
Okay.
back, eating
I'm
the
just
blizzard.
curious because
I'm in the back. I'm just chowing down on a blizzard.
absolutely.
Specifically the Oreo brookie.
Absolutely.
Oreo brookie.
That's good. That's
Well, let's
good.
jump into this. Hayes.
Yeah,
Why don't
yeah.
you
Let's
run?
jump into this. Yeah. So, explain. We're gonna kind of do a progression of story. Explain, where before you found Christ. Explain the process of finding Christ. That kind of like not a long story, but explain that process.
Okay, so as far back as I can really remember, I was in Faith Church for 90% of my life.
Okay.
Faith
Faith Church in St. Louis, right?
Yeah, in St.
Okay.
Louis.
Okay.
And it was this big mega church is what they made it out to be.
Yeah.
And so being in that church at 5, 6 years old to maybe
Mhm.
10, it was a big progression of listening was a huge part of it because now obviously I'm more mature.
Yeah.
I can listen to the word and then I can take in what God has said to me and kind of use it in my own life. But before then, whenever I was maybe 5, again 10, it was like, oh, I'm just sitting here. It's really boring.
Yeah.
Dad, you got games on your phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're hearing the stories, you learn the Bible stories, you know the generals,
whatever.
you know those things, but
Yeah.
there's nothing really like some soul searching
Yeah.
depth to anything.
Oh,
You're just
yeah.
there. So you went there. When did that end?
Did you ever stop going to Faith? And was there a moment in between where you stopped going to Faith and started coming to life?
So a big part of it was what my dad was doing.
Okay.
And so eventually me, my brothers, and my sister were all like, hey, this is what he's doing. We need to get away from that.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we
Yeah.
kind of took away from what my dad was doing and kind of separated us with our
Sure.
mom. And that was the turning point to my whole entire
So what
life.
age was this?
What age? Probably 10.
Probably
to be
10,
honest.
okay.
It was a while ago.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically what happened was we're going to church together as a family.
Mm-hmm.
There's a rift in the family,
Mhm.
correct? Something happens, something transpires. Dad goes this way.
Mm.
Mom and the kids go in this direction. And then from there, we come to Columbia. Is that right?
Mhm.
And now, what does it look like now? We're a family, it's mom and the kids. What did that look like?
Yeah.
What kind of thoughts? I mean, do you remember thoughts then? Like, what
Yeah.
what did
Well,
life?
you were still
what
living in Columbia the whole
fears?
time. So yeah, you're still
Yeah.
living in Columbia the
So
whole
I've
time.
been Columbia, born and raised.
Come
Love
on.
it.
The best.
Love it. Sword
place
Eagles,
to
right?
Same
live.
here.
But what it looked like kind of going into that and my thoughts was like, oh, now what's going to happen? Am I going to see my dad? Am I going to hear from him? Because the way it happened was I was living part-time with my dad and part-time with my mom. Dad gets
Okay.
weekends. Mom would get weekdays. And then I can just remember the days before we left my dad and would go to his apartment because he didn't have his own house. He was
Mhm.
just a single dad. He worked for some garbage company, I think.
Okay.
And we would go to his house, and I could remember my mom taking me there and me crying in the back seat.
Right. Oh,
I was like,
yeah,
Mom, I
sure.
don't want to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
she was persistent on me going because she didn't want to look like the bad guy.
Yeah.
She didn't want to look like you can't go see your father. You can't go see your dad because it's just, he's a big part in your life, right?
Yeah.
A dad could
Yeah.
play this major person where he comforts you, he
Yeah.
gives you advice, he teaches you how to shave, how
Yeah.
to do all these things, ride a bike. My stepdad had to teach me how to ride a bike.
Yeah.
Dang.
Dang.
Yeah. So how'd that impact you? I mean, obviously, I don't know where was your faith journey in this? How'd that impact your faith journey? Kind of like splitting off. You guys probably stopped going to church from what, probably 10 to 15? 10 to
Yeah,
14?
just about
10
to
to
be
14
honest.
or
Yeah.
15?
Uh-huh.
Right. So where were you? How was your faith throughout that
So
5
throughout
years?
that, non-existent.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just completely forgot who God was. I never truly knew him.
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
even think I was baptized. I wasn't living the life that I was or I am now living.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, sometimes we are at church. We grew up in church. It's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And then a lot of times we have this difficulty. It's usually a catalyst, right? Usually, maybe obviously for your situation, a divorce in the family, a difficult time in the family, maybe a hardship happens. All of a sudden, your eyes are open to like, man, what happens? And it's crazy how what God doesn't abandon you in that. You would
Definitely.
think like something bad happens, I'm out, whatever. But God actually meets you
Mm-hmm.
kind of in that low spot, in that difficulty,
That, like,
and begins
storm,
to
yeah.
stir. You don't see it, but God begins to stir your
Yeah.
heart and begins to orchestrate things for your good, but for His glory, right?
Yeah. Good.
So, so Josh, tell us more like leading up to like you getting this epiphany, like these realizations that God's like drawing you near to Him.
Yeah.
Like when
So
did that start?
I was reintroduced to my faith whenever my brother started to reach out to my dad more. This began at maybe 13. And then he picked up his Bible. And then I was like, whoa, hold on. He had all this scarring. And now he's picking up his Bible again.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
And then
Mm.
I think a year later, Clint, some of you may know him, Clint Moyer introduced me to Life Community Church.
And were you guys
Yeah.
were good friends this time?
It's a funny story because we were in Spanish class and I went up to him. I said, "We're gonna be best friends." Like almost God had prophesied in my life,
That
Like,
and
look, this is your buddy.
I just spoke out.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually.
Man.
That's insane.
So how I remember being in going back a little bit. I remember being in a discipleship program called Real Life last summer with you and me, you, Brandon Hall, and a few other people were in that group. And I remember Brandon Hall asking me this question. It really intrigued me to know more about your story. And he asked, and I'm gonna ask you this question right now. Like, is it hard to see God as a father when your earthly father is kind of not abandoned you, but kind of like left the situation?
So I think before I forgave him, it was definitely hard because, again, that father's supposed to teach you how to respect, teach you those life lessons, teach you how
Yeah.
to do certain things that you wouldn't know how to do without a father figure.
Right.
So that introduces me to God as like, well, you're supposed to be my father.
Yeah.
You're supposed to protect me from certain things.
Yeah.
And just as the earthly father, you're supposed to live like that. You're supposed to teach him those things, right? And that just kind of represents what I thought would be God. And so
Okay.
that's just where I lost my faith.
So like your earthly father kind of portrayed not a wrong picture, but like
Yeah.
a different picture of
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
what God is
False
supposed
picture.
to.
False picture. Right.
Yeah.
I
false
can imagine the rage and the anger you'd have behind those emotions, right? You seen all your other friends, all your other buddies. They got these role model in their life. They got their father nearby, close. I mean, in the back of your head, you're always thinking, man, like, I'll never have this.
Yeah.
This will never happen. Look, he has his dad. Look, his dad comes to church. They have this, that's difficult, man.
Yeah.
That's some difficult things to like process. And I think it's cool that, Hayes talked about real life, that they were in a discipleship program together where Hayes was speaking into Josh's life, an older mentor, Brandon, speaking into Josh's life. All these things, like we said earlier, God's orchestrating these things.
Yeah.
Drawing Josh to him to reveal his actually the father love that he was going to need later on to get him through.
And real life was
So good.
huge.
Very
It was
huge for you.
big. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Clint invited you to church. What happened? What happened from there?
So Clint invited me to church. He invited me specifically more to youth
Okay.
because he's like, hey, man, there's this big party. we're just gonna like celebrate the Goins, because I was like, who's the Goins? Oh, they're this new youth pastor.
Yeah.
And this is something that I didn't even know was gonna make such a big impact on me. I posted on my Snapchat story. I was like, hey, just turning into a Christian boy.
Were you like being sarcastic?
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, there's no way I'm gonna get into this. And then I went to another party, because there's like 3 parties in 3 weeks. It was crazy.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't mean like party. He means
Yeah,
like
no, like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
like
we know what you're
different,
saying.
yeah,
Yeah, celebration. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah.
Continue
So-
from there.
Is
Like,
this summertime? This is summertime, right?
yeah, around the same.
Around summertime. Okay, yeah. So yeah.
wait. Was it summertime or wintertime?
It was,
Because they came in November, right?
yeah.
Oh, so maybe it's like Christmas activities going on. and
So it
was like
stuff
Yeah,
that.
Christmas
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So explain, where would your walk in the faith? Like, did you start coming regularly Sunday? Your family, your mom, maybe your mom coming with you, your brother. You know what I mean? Explain that.
So I was again introduced, and then I was like, wow, this stuff is actually kind of meaningful. Wow, this stuff is kind of, I could correlate this to my life, right?
Yeah.
So I started going to Sunday services.
Yeah.
And I started sitting with the youth pastor, because Clint was volunteering and all my other friends went to like first service or something.
Yeah.
And all the youth were like sitting in different places with their family.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I'll just sit with the youth pastor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think that mainly seeing them worship, lift their hands, singing
Yeah.
out to God really impacted my heart and just
Yeah.
took off from there.
Yeah, I gotta give it up to you, especially because you won't find very many times a high school kid to come to church by himself.
Yeah.
To drive to intentionally wake up on a Sunday morning, go by yourself,
100%.
because most of the kids, honestly, they're gonna sit with their families, like you said. They're sitting with their family, they're sitting with their family. Where do I belong in this dynamic? My buddy, he's volunteering. I don't want to sit alone, awkward and weird.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty cool. And even today, today at service, I saw, a bunch of youth sitting together. I thought that was sweet.
Love it.
On the front row, hanging out. So I admired that today.
Yeah.
Especially.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was really sweet. So you're there. You're starting to go. You're starting to come. Drew, he's coming in. He's beginning to speak into your life. What transpires with that? With him, a message that he gives.
So are you talking about Jamie or Drew?
Drew and Jamie. I mean,
Yeah,
kinda
whichever.
Like a mix
Yeah,
of both.
Okay.
yeah. Well,
Like,
So-
was there a gradual process of you like coming to church, going to youth, or was there a moment where
Okay,
Jamie
yeah.
spoke, Drew spoke, where it was like, man, I got it. I need to start following Jesus.
Okay. So I think, again, the main thing was not the moment. I think, again, it was the events that led up to that. Because Drew immediately just was in my life, which I admire him so much. I respect him.
yeah.
And the way he lifted me up, rather than some people lifting me up and then being like, oh, you suck, idiot. Like maybe even just joking. Sometimes I feel like with jokes come a meaning where
A little bit of truth.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
bit of truth. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
So with Drew being there and not putting me down, and Jamie as well, Jamie's messages, even today, he was like, there will always be opposition, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you are not for me, then you should not correct me.
100%,
So good.
Yeah.
So, man, it was awesome having you on. I have one more question for you. So, you said you had unforgiveness towards your father a little bit. Was there a moment where you forgave your father?
Yeah. So
So explain that. Yeah, explain that.
Drew presented a message that was like, well, my mother did this and this brought me to unforgiveness. But then God had laid a message on my heart where it was like, you need to forgive your mother. And then just like Drew, I texted my father and was like, hey, I forgive you. You may not have think what you did was wrong, but it did impact my life, but I forgive you. And I felt that weight drop off my heart so fast. It was amazing. I
Yeah.
loved it.
So it's like something just released from it.
Something just
Yeah.
dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sometimes we don't really we don't see the outcome. We don't really know what's going to happen, but when we walk in the obedience
Yeah.
that he's asking,
Yeah.
all of a sudden he honors the obedience and he does what he says he does in his word. He lifts that weight right off of us. And So what's going on now? Like, so now you're a junior, right?
Yeah, I'm a junior.
Okay.
It's weird.
Man,
to
that's
think.
yeah,
What,
that's
uh,
weird.
it's so weird.
So
Upperclassmen.
what does it look like for you right now? I mean, right now, youth, right? School, summertime. What does it look like moving forward now? Right now, and then moving forward.
So right now, there's definitely a big bump in my life going on, and I'm just trying to go through that. But now, from earlier, if I were going through a bump, I'd just be like, I'm gonna do this by myself. But now that I know I have God with me and I have friends that I can trust and new family that I can turn to,
That's
Mhm.
good. Yeah.
it's like I'm not alone.
Yeah.
This is completely different. And I feel like I'm always happy, compared to whenever I was younger, where I was kind of depressed.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
got the joy of the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what it
Joy
is.
of the
Yeah,
Lord.
the joy of the Lord. That's what it is.
Dude, come on, Josh. I mean, it was awesome having you on here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean,
guys.
now just speaking to the viewers, guys, get involved with the youth. You see him, right?
Yeah. You want the joy
You
of
got
the
involved with
Lord?
the youth.
Come
Joy of
on.
the
You want the
Lord.
joy of the Lord. And we got an event each month of the summer. So in June,
Summer bash.
July,
August.
and
yeah.
August.
We're doing house parties.
House parties. Someone's going to give a little message. There's going to be pool party.
Yeah.
One of them's in July. It's going to be slip and slide kickball.
Yeah.
It's going to be an awesome time. Make sure you guys get plugged in. Make sure you guys like, subscribe. And if this blessed you, comment. But most importantly, it's easier for us if you can share.
Absolutely.
Share it on your Instagram story, share it on your Snapchat story. Share it with your friend, family member.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Josh Probst was hurt. He was lost. And now he's found.
Yep.
Amen.
Amen.
That's
Thanks for
good.
watching today, guys.